This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the Motor City Sports Rant is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming soon. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch the game and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown to a free round of drinks if the quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your teams or players record a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deals are met, coupons are sent to your device to show to your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play very soon. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Score Deals. Score. Watch games. Score deals.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am Jason Jarvie. Follow me on Twitter at Jarvie the King. And the man who can't park, John the Doc Macaroon. What's up, sir?
You laugh at me, but I was up at 6:30 this morning after staying up till 3:30 watching the Houston Astros take a 3-2 series lead and after watching the Lions obviously implode in the red zone. So I had a long night on Sunday.
I was up at 6:30 after being up at 3 of my own volition.
So tell everybody that doesn't follow us via our social media platform, what are you actually laughing at?
I'm laughing at because you... Dude, it's literally like this is where you work. This isn't just where you come to do your podcast. This is your own place of business. You run a practice here. It's like you parked like a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, so
it's like you're on your phone probably, and you're looking at all the stupid tweets that you like to look at. Maybe you were just, rock hard over some WWE stuff, and you just pulled into the parking spot. And you're completely over the line.
For those that know me, I'm not the best driver, and I'm not the best parker. So I can understand where you could come in and laugh at me. But I am leaving after this podcast to go buy some things for the office. So I will correct it. But I could see where people would look at that and go, what's wrong with this guy? I am one of those guys that sometimes takes up 2 spots when you're in a parking structure to go to a sporting event. I just try to swerve in and get out. You know what I mean? So
see, that's a jerk move.
You want to know what a bigger jerk move is? I got, yelled at and honked at by a school bus driver. So let me set the scene for you. Yeah, it was bad, too, because she was pissed. And I think, too, I embarrassed myself in front of all the parents and families. But unfortunately, what happens is the first frost, you wake up and you're trying to plan to get your kid to school on time. So for the most part, most days, I try to get my daughter to her school by like 8:50. You know what I mean? So I can take her to school and then come into the office.
Class starts at 9?
Yeah, 8:57, 8:59, you start walking in. So the bus will pull up to the corner of my subdivision at 8:49 to pick up those that want to be bused. So I drive my kid in. So we were running behind. The kid was, eating breakfast. She likes to sleep in a little bit. So we get out right about 8:49. And, of course, I'm not going to basically scrape down my whole car last week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not scraping at all. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. I basically scrape just a little bit so I can see. All right, so I get out, 8:49. All of a sudden, the bus is there. And I'm like, shoot, I should have just turned right because the bus was to my left. But I turned left right into the stop sign. And, everyone's looking at me like I committed mass murder or something. Everyone's looking at me like, what did you do? And then the bus driver flicked me off, and she laid on her horn, like literally for 4 seconds as I drove by. And I was looking sheepish, too. I was kind of like slumped over. and I drive by, and I'm like, oh, shoot. When you're doing something stupid, but you just commit to it, you double down on it. So I just go down the road, and then, you go down to the next stop sign. All of a sudden, these two old dudes feel the need to be like, did you not see a stop sign, or did you not see a bus driver? And I'm like, oh, God, let me just make that right turn and just, avoid this problem. So when I came home, my wife's like, did you do something to the bus driver? I heard someone laying on the horn, because she laid on it, like literally from the whole time I turned until I passed the bus driver. She was not happy that I did that. And I've seen reports on Channel 7 where a lot of drivers are stupid and they don't stop for the bus. I've only done it once, and I was in a rush, and I was kind of half asleep. But you just make the move, and then have you ever done that where you like double down on a mistake and just go with it?
Yeah, you pretty much
major violation.
You really can't do anything. I know it was one of the scariest times of driving. It was just running a light, and I figured that I had time, but I ran it, and it was at 9 in Harper. It was back when the bowling alley was still there. So I ran the light, and it was it was still yellow, but it was red as I was under it. And I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. Little did I know that just up ahead, all the traffic was stopping. So I literally had to I swerved, I went left, went right, and I was fortunate enough to avoid an accident. But there's not much you can do.
And I didn't think about it too, is that all the parents huddle up too. All the parents that huddle up in that corner basically live by me. So I'm one of those neighbors that don't really get along with all the neighbors. Not that it's adversarial.
I don't see that at all, John.
Not that it's adversarial, but what it is that, I keep to myself. My family comes over, but the rest of the subdivision, they just party with each other. They're always huddled and watching, and they're all Michigan supporters. So the majority of them, at least. So I'm not over there like, yeah, but from time to time, say hey, hello, walk the kids around the neighborhood, but we're not buddy with all. And it seems like everybody's kind of friendly with each other, but not me.
I don't know, I say it's poor form on the bus driver's part. If the bus driver flicked you off, I mean, these are little kids.
You're right. No, I think it was at a time right when they were not getting in yet.
Still,
it's not
right?
See
that somebody could see that.
Yeah, bus drivers are not known for exactly having the proper tact. But I made a mistake and I owned up to it. I won't do it again. And next time, I got to remember that if you see the bus to my left, I can just turn right. Right. So whatever.
Learn how to drive.
Learn how to drive properly and learn how to park.
I think you're one of those candidates for why we should retake the driver's ed class.
Exactly. And I came in. I learned how to drive before all these regulations and restrictions. I took a $99 class, and that was it.
I mean, I was in the same boat. I'm a better driver than you, though.
You are.
But it is. It's, everyone always jokes that, old people shouldn't be allowed to drive. And I think there's probably a certain age when you should have to retake those kinds of tests to make sure that you have all the faculties to be able to do that. Maybe they should even think about doing it.
Technically, Jason, I did take a class, okay? Because if you want to get into it, all right, here's my driving record. I got 3 to 4 speeding tickets over the course of my lifetime, 2 in a close period of time. Okay, so the second one, I was driving pretty fast. So they said, okay, look, this one you're going to get 2 points on because of the fact that I was going pretty fast, and I forget what, the situation was. But they said, look, in order to remove the points, here's what you can do. You can take this online class here at the office. It's going to be 5 hours, and you got to sit through it, go over it, get remedial, and once you take it, submit it to the courts, and we'll waive the points. So I did it, and so far so good. I haven't been pulled over in, I think, 6 months now. So far so good. Speed Demon here is trying his best to just drive 5 over the speed limit.
Good for you, John, but that's not why we're here. We're not here to talk for an hour about your parking and driving habits.
It might be better than talking about the Lions' inefficiency in the red zone. Man, it wasn't a problem, Jason. It was not a problem. You would think after a bye week that the Lions would be proficient in the red zone, that they would figure out how to execute their offense properly. Primetime game versus the Steelers. The offense looked good from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line. They were having deep plays to Marvin Jones. The offense was able to move the ball on a defense that had some respect across the league. But once the Lions got to the red zone versus the Steelers, they crapped the bed numerous times. There's a lot to talk about regarding this game because, first and foremost, when people examine this game, it was a blown opportunity to defeat an AFC opponent. You had a chance to go 4-3 after the bye week, and you blew it. I felt like similar to other reporters who were looking at the game, the Lions were the better team on that field, but they shot themselves in the foot too many times in the red zone, and they were unable to score touchdowns, which you have to do. Or you could take this approach. You have a head coach who we all know doesn't know how to manage a game. And when you have an opportunity on a fourth down, and we'll talk about it, as we break down this game, you have an opportunity to get points. You know what? You're not scoring touchdowns. Fine. You got the best kicker in the league. You just signed him to an extension. Let him do this thing. Sometimes your kicker can be the MVP. It might have taken 6 to 7 field goals, maybe 8. If that's what's going to happen, then don't shoot yourselves in the foot. And I'm just so angry that the Lions let this one slip under the cracks.
Yeah, it's just I came in late in the game, had to work late last night, but hearing everything that went on and coming in at the third quarter, it didn't seem like that much of an interesting game early on. That it just kind of kept going back and forth, punts, field goals.
What did I tell you
interceptions.
when you texted me? How should I take in this game? I said, look, probably you don't need to start paying attention till 10. And if you did follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast, the early theme of the game was run. They just were way too predictable, calling run plays on first down way too many times, and they were unable to capitalize on situations. And I think the halftime score was 12-10. 12-10? Seriously?
I mean, looking at it at the game, if you want to go over the only real good point of this game is that our defense actually looked okay, and this is a team I was definitely worried about, because even though Ben Roethlisberger hasn't been as good, he's had his games, they're on the road, they still had Le'Veon Bell, who is one of the best, if not the best, running back in the league, and they have Antonio Brown, who is the best wide receiver in the league. And for those guys, you hold Le'Veon Bell to 76 yards. He's only averaging 3 yards a carry. He got the touchdown, but it was a long drive. They got him down. It was a red zone touchdown. And Antonio Brown, you hold him to 5 catches and 70 yards. That's something good. You pretty much can link this game to one play, that if you were able to stop that Juju Smith-Schuster 97-yard touchdown, we may be talking about the Lions winning this game. But obviously, we weren't able to stop the longest play in Pittsburgh Steelers history. We're talking about how our offense is just completely ineffective in the red zone.
That 97-yard touchdown should never have happened. That came after the Lions decided to go for it on fourth down. That play should not have happened. That happened the following drive. And it's so typical of the Lions to make a stupid play. Okay.
And it was third down, too.
Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, let's look at that particular sequence in the game. It's in the third quarter. Okay, I think about 6 minutes left. The third down play. Do you remember what they tried to run on third and goal, the Lions? Okay, they give the ball to Dwayne Washington, okay? If you look at it and you replay, what happened, Dwayne Washington tries to hit the hole, right? Pittsburgh blows it up, literally. Third down, and it produced a tackle that made a huge, impactful noise. And I tweeted out on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, oh my God, this is indicative of what's wrong with the Lions. Because when you're in the red zone, it's about drive, it's about getting push, and the Pittsburgh defenders blew up that play on third down. So then it's fourth down, and on that particular play, when Washington got blown up, okay, Rick Wagner gets hurt. So there's a lull in the action, a timeout. So they had time to think about it. Throughout the process of whatever Jim Bob Cooter and Jim Caldwell are processing, they decide to go for it, which, people debated back and forth with us. Many felt like go for it, okay? But I was of the opinion, look, you never take points off the board. You never take points off the board, especially, let's just say that the Lions were, having some success on, a couple drives. That third down play was so impactful that it should have told everybody that, okay, we can't run the ball. We're having problems getting the ball in the end zone. We're having problems, cracking the Pittsburgh defense. So then the fourth down play is atrocious. It goes nowhere. Then you give the ball back to Pittsburgh, and they said that, yeah, we would expect our defense to hold it. But it's the Lions. You'd expect any other defense potentially to do some things. And on third down, Ben Roethlisberger connects with Schuster for the 97-yard, and Pittsburgh takes the lead. So you had an opportunity to get those 3 points. Inevitably, that is the biggest mistake of the contest, and you have to hold Jim Caldwell accountable. That's the most frustrating aspect of what you see with the Lions is, since it was discovered and released that the Lions, extended Jim Caldwell, they're 1-4.
And I mean, that wasn't even for me, it wasn't the most infuriating of the fourth downs that they didn't connect on. late in the game, you've driven down to the Pittsburgh 8-yard line. You have 4 plays to punch it in and try to get a touchdown to win this game. Third down, you try and get Theoretic up there and you get negative 2 yards. So then 2-minute warning. You have time to plan what's going to happen for this 4th down play. You trot out your offense. I texted you as soon as this play happened, and as I'm watching it, I see Eric Ebron look completely clueless. He looks like he's waving his hands like he doesn't know what's going on. Stafford looks like he's flustered, and at that point, why Jim Caldwell didn't call a timeout? You have all 3 of your timeouts at this point, and I get saving them to try to get if you don't make this play, regardless or not, but. You're at the 8-yard line. This is probably going to be one of your best opportunities to score. And not calling a timeout, that is all on Jim Caldwell. The final result of that play, you snap the ball wildly. It almost ends up being a pick 6. And the defense did everything they could to try and get the ball back for them, and it just didn't work out. But I put some of that on Caldwell. I have to put a little bit on Matt Stafford too. Because as good as I think he's been this year, that's an instance where I think a guy like Tom Brady, a guy like Aaron Rodgers, if he sees that everything isn't right and this is the game on the line, I would have called the timeout there myself. If I'm Matt Stafford in that, I see my guys aren't in position. I'm not in the best possible situation to score this go-ahead touchdown. I'm calling a timeout. I don't care that I just came out of the 2-minute warning. How many times have we seen, teams come off of stoppages of plays and then have to take another timeout and then come back, and they at least you can say that you gave every look at it and you gave it your best shot. But no, they went in a rushed hurry play and it was just disappointing.
Okay, Jason, do you want me to make you even more infuriated right now when we look at the Detroit Lions?
I mean,
okay,
not really, but sure.
Yeah, who was the star of the Pittsburgh offense? Who's this guy that's kind of made some national news as being the speedy 20-year-old, talented wide receiver? Speed. Who is that individual that kind of came away from Sunday Night Football with some national respect?
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Do you know where he was selected?
Probably after Kenny Galladay.
No, he was selected after Tease Tabor. Okay, the Detroit Lions selected with the 53rd pick, cornerback Tease Tabor, who was inactive on Sunday. So do you know where Juju Smith-Schuster was drafted?
Immediately after?
Number 62, second round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now you got another player after Kareem Hunt, potentially, that you could have had, and it doesn't work out. So isn't that kind of embarrassing?
I mean, how can it not be? I want to say that it's not embarrassing, but how can it not be at this point? I mean, you can't really blame Kenny Galladay for being injured, but all these players not working out and guys like Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster who are becoming stars early in their NFL careers, it just kind of seems like we missed the ball. Now, we're not the only team that missed on these players. All other 30 teams in the NFL missed on these players. You can how bad are the Browns and the New York Jets shooting themselves in the foot for not taking a guy like Deshaun Watson? I mean, Deshaun Watson is having one of the best starts to any NFL career. 19 touchdowns in his first 7 games. But no, this is it's a theme with the Lions that we constantly miss on the picks that we probably should have made.
Exactly. And that's why when you look at the Lions organization, people are so upset. They're so frustrated in that we don't have a running back. We don't have a tight end. What made you, in the game versus Pittsburgh, what made you most upset? The red zone inefficiency, poor play calling, the fact that potentially that the Lions blew this opportunity. What is the most infuriating aspect of the game versus Pittsburgh?
It has to be the play calling. I think red zone and play calling kind of goes hand in hand. But if I go anything, I have to go with the play calling because I get it. When you're down in that 10-yard line, it can be difficult. You're working in a small space. You can't open up the field. You can't run streaks. You have to run everything in a box. So I get that you're not going to score every single time, but you have to put your team in the right position. And when you know that you don't have the personnel, you just come off looking dumb. I mean, Jim Caldwell and Jim Bob Cooter, they're not making any cases for themselves. They look like they're stubborn, that they're trying to force the run. I don't even know what they're doing at this point. I know that they're trying to set up the pass or the play action, or that they're trying to make the defenses honest. Your strength is passing the ball. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you, and any of those goal line, the goal to go situations, why wouldn't you run a rollout to the right, have people in motion instead of just relying on guys running curl routes and standing in place and realizing that they're all covered? They're only rushing 3 at this point. You know that there's going to be 8 guys dropped back. Put guys in motion. I mean, when I saw Theo Riddick, that's what Theo Riddick is there to do. He's supposed to be the pass-catching threat. When we get down there, he should be a guy who's running a circle route. He's running across the middle, and it just doesn't happen.
He's only targeted once, I think, in the first half. I think the talk was that they were supposed to play Amir and Theo at the same time more often. Why don't they do that?
I don't get why Theo Riddick isn't a bigger part of this offense. Last year, before he got hurt, he was the offense. Everything ran through Theo Riddick, and he really set up all the success that Golden Tate and Marvin Jones and Anquan and Bolden had because people had to respect Theo Riddick coming out of the backfield. And for whatever reason, he's not there. You don't see those kinds of plays called anymore. And I'm just at a loss for words. I don't know what they're doing on offense. I could understand what they were doing last year and that it was dink and dunk, but at this point, I don't know what they are.
Well, we called it last year, and I mean, I didn't say it probably so eloquently like the professionals say it, but Lomas Brown came on after the game, Fox Sports Detroit, when they break down the game for an hour on FSD, and he said, look, the offense is not creative enough. It's not. And so I called it boring in that I was looking at it more from the entertainment side of it, but when you run dink and dunk plays, when you don't have a legitimate deep threat, the wide receivers were not open. Whenever Matthew Stafford tried to throw the ball to his tight ends, it was an ordeal. And you have to give credit to Pittsburgh. They were able to stifle the Lions in the red zone. I mean, there were big plays from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, but when it came down to score the ball, the Lions just weren't able to. But you have to give credit to Pittsburgh. They bracketed the Lions receivers to the point where it was a disorganized mess. In that aspect,
I only give them credit so far. Yeah, you give them credit for doing their job and being the correct coverages, but then it's on the offensive coordinator and the head coach who are calling the same plays, that they aren't running anything different.
Exactly. Defensive coordinators have figured out a way to stifle the Detroit Lions because of their lack of creativity. And the bigger problem is the fact that we don't have a legitimate running game. It makes the team one-dimensional. You can't, have Matthew Stafford drop back 50 times because then he's going to get picked off or he's going to get crunched or he's not going to be able to effectively run that kind of an offense. So, you started to see the ball move a little bit more when you did some curl routes to Theo Riddick, when you started utilizing the screen properly. The issue is, though, when you're in the red zone, you don't have a legitimate power running back like a LeGarrette Blount to get the ball moving. So that obviously, we talk about the ineffective offensive line. When you're using a third-string tackle, you say to yourself, wow, Bob Quinn and the Lions staff decided to upgrade the offensive line, but it's been decimated by injury. And then it trickles down to an inability when you have a 3rd and 1 from the 3 or 4 yard line. You can't execute.
And honestly, with the way this team is constructed, I would love for them to just open up the offense.
Nobody's open.
I don't care. Let Matthew Stafford, if he wants to throw 50 times, I would rather have them do that and build the playbook around that. Have more 5 wides. Have more 4 wide receiver. You have guys out there that you're at least giving him more options, because trotting out Tate, Marvin Jones, and Tita Jones in 3 wide sets and hoping that Darren Fells or Michael Roberts is going to save you, it's not working. We saw it with Michigan State having to make a comeback. It seemed like when they started opening up the offense, it started to move the ball more. The Lions, they're just not opening it up. They're stuck running the ball. I hate having it's the same. I feel like with Detroit sports, we have the same conversations every week. It's because they need the same things. They need a run game. And until they get something like that,
we need a running back and we need a tight end.
We're going to be talking like this until the draft time, and when they pass on more viable running back options.
Fair or foul? Are the Lions fans and the way they treat Eric Ebron fair or foul? Because now it's to the point where the fans have so much disdain for the man that anytime the ball is thrown in his direction, the crowd, and it was audible very loudly during the game in the broadcast. So anytime the ball would be targeted towards Ebron, the crowd would boo because inevitably he would drop it. There was one pass where he alligator armed it clearly. And then when he finally made a catch of any kind of significance in the fourth quarter, the crowd gave him a Bronx cheer, and they're yelling out, "Hey!" And they're giving him, an embarrassing cheer when he makes even a 4-yard catch. So is it fair or foul in terms of how the fans treat and really react to tight end Eric Ebron?
For fans, it is completely fair. This is what you paid to come and see. You paid to come see an offense do something. And we know that Eric Ebron, what he is right now, he's not a starting tight end. Even though he was a first-round draft pick, he's gotten all this money, he's gotten extensions. I'm tired of Eric Ebron. I'm glad that he deserves everything that comes to him, because he should be the linchpin on this offense. He should be the difference maker in this offense, and he's let everybody in Detroit down.
So the other talking point, and a couple of people messaged us after the game, was, look, relax. It's going to be okay because of the fact, look, I had it as a loss already, and then I had the following week being, I think, a victory versus Green Bay to have them at 4-4. So some people said, look, the contest versus Pittsburgh, that's a national team. They were 5-2 coming in. They were pretty good anyway. We expected them to lose. But the rest of the way, the schedule kind of shakes out when you play Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Baltimore. You have some teams on that schedule that if you foreshadow a little bit and you look ahead, kind of leads people to believe, look, it can be fixed. This is a situation where the schedule might allow the Lions to kind of get back in it. But now we're sitting here and Minnesota's atop the division at 6-2.
Yeah, I get it. I know in our little mock, I'm pretty sure both of us had them at either 4-4, or I might have even had them at 3-5. And I crazily picked them to win their last 8 games. But it's the NFL. It's hard to get any type of string like that going. I do think the schedule does lighten up. Obviously, it would be better if we went 4-4 halfway through the season. But I know you're going to be going into Lambeau. You're going to be facing a Green Bay team who is coming off a bye, and this is a team who actually knows how to use their bye and will actually come out and probably be better than they were the last game when they had essentially a rookie quarterback and Brett Hundley started his first ever game for Aaron Rodgers. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do next week. And it's really
So what's your confidence level?
I'm at a solid
panic or relax.
I'm at a 50-50. I'm right on the edge. I think this next game is it's going to be telling. I'm not going to say it's a must win, because I think if you go into Green Bay and lose, as long as you go in there and are able to actually, we see improvement in the offense, we see some sort of change, then I would feel a little bit better. If you go in there and you get just completely blown out, you see no changes, then this season might be headed in a downward spiral. If you go into Green Bay and you actually steal a victory in a game that a lot of people probably aren't going to be picking you, even though they don't have Aaron Rodgers starting for them, it could just spark something. And that's, I think, a lot of NFL teams is you need a spark.
Man, it's just so tough because, for me, you spend the day with the kids. You do some things for the podcast network. You come home, you want to enjoy a football game, and it's a field goal fest. And you're paying your quarterback $27 million, and you surround him with what we thought of was quality talent. And you got Golden Tate, who grabs the ball, does some things. And, Jason, have you ever seen, basically, a wide receiver with the caliber of a Golden Tate just drop the ball? Wasn't that the same old Lions moment of the game? He just dropped the ball. He just literally, there was really not that much contact. He's running, and the ball just, bloop, fell out.
I mean,
come on now. Why? Why is that happening?
If you're splitting hairs, the same old Lions moment of the game was that 4th down at the end of the game.
And when you can't run the football, you can't have a winning team. And the Lions, we thought potentially by getting TJ Lang and Rick Wagner had solved the offensive line issues, but Taylor Decker goes down, and it just hasn't gelled, and it's resulted in. And also, I think too, Amir Abdullah just gets squished by the defenders. He can't hit the hole. I mean, he can get a couple quality runs of 8 yards, but he can't hit the home run.
He can make a couple moves, but at some point he's just he takes too many of those, 2-3 yard losses that it just adds up. He's not a Barry Sanders who, he's going to lose you 8 yards on a play, but he's also going to break multiple 15, 20 plus yard runs.
So,
which is why Saquon Barkley, come on. Lions, do whatever you can.
Saquon Barkley, get a running back. And that's the part that people are just so frustrated is the 2017 draft had some depth at the running back position, and you went nowhere with it.
I don't even care. Change our team name to the Detroit Nittany Lions. Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley. So, Jason, before we take a break, we try and stay humble here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and we don't think that we're on the level of analysis of a Rodney Harrison, of a Tony Dungy, of a Dan Patrick. But I'm sitting there watching kind of a little bit before the game, right? And Rodney Harrison and some of the national media, I said to myself finally for the first time, oh my God, they're not paying attention. They're not dialed into the pulse of what's going on with the Lions. And I said, you know what? I could have sat up there and delivered better analysis than what Rodney Harrison did describing Eric Ebron. He had the gall to tell the audience watching. He said, Eric Ebron is the missing piece for the Lions offense. And he's like, look, if he gets on track, then the Lions offense can take place. And I felt like he needed to add the caveat that, you know what?
That's what he's been for like the last couple of years.
You know what? He needed to add the caveat that while, yes, an effective tight end would be great, you don't see it. There's a chance that potentially he won't be on the team anymore, that Eric Ebron is a bust, or along the lines of this guy is on this team to make plays and he's totally botching the offense. So I literally sat there watching it going, I cannot believe Rodney Harrison just said that Eric Ebron is the missing piece to that offense. I really don't think so anymore. I think that Matthew Stafford has totally lost confidence, as evidenced by there was a play where Eric Ebron was wide open when the Lions were in the red zone and Stafford didn't even look to him. And so I watched it and I said, wow, it's unbelievable that the national media is so off on Eric Ebron in terms of looking at what he does bring to the table. Everyone in Detroit knows what he does not bring to the table. And I feel like sitting here recording this podcast, this is a man that wants to be traded. They ask him, how do you feel about being traded? He's like, it doesn't matter. Y'all can boo me. I'm going to be happy. If you boo me, I'm happy. If you cheer me, that stuff doesn't affect me. If I get traded, that's fine. If I don't get traded, that's fine too. So I do think that a lot of the fans' anger that is directed towards the Lions is directed at Eric Ebron. I just think he needs to be traded, but
sounds a lot like Prince Fielder to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids, man.
He can't win no matter what he tries, and unfortunately, I don't see a scenario in which a team is going to take him off our hands. I would, clap if
give us the 7th round pick. I don't care.
7th round pick for Eric Ebron, and then watch, he'll go somewhere else and then thrive. He'll be the next Jimmy Graham.
As long as he doesn't go to the Patriots, because I feel like if he went to the Patriots, yes, that would happen, and they'd win another Super Bowl.
All right, let's take a quick timeout. Come back. We got to break down what the hell happened with Michigan State at Ryan Field with the loss to Northwestern.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Jason, I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a host site to place all of our recorded audio. And at this point in time, we've recorded well over 600 to 700 weekly podcasts, and we've only used one host site, Podomatic.com. Why do you ask? Great customer service. We generate links super quick. After we're done recording this podcast, boom, we do a quick edit, and we can generate a link within 5 minutes. That's how great Podomatic is. We've been with them since 2013, and we've only used one host site. If you're looking to start a brand new project, all the hosts on the network, we're going to recommend one host site, Podomatic.com.
Your lipstick is calling out, bothering Joel. I know exactly what goes on.
Motor City Sports Radio, Detroit Sports Podcast.com. This brings me back to my high school days. Taking Back Sunday, cute without the E, cut from the team. I want Eric Ebron to be cut from the team. Is there a player outside of Eric Ebron you would want to see cut from this team?
From the Lions?
Yes.
Amir Abdullah. I feel like running backs, I feel like it's a position that could be upgraded. And unfortunately, when you check the report, when you see the film, Amir Abdullah is not doing enough to earn his spot. And I think that, potentially speaking, you need to potentially maybe downgrade him to a third down back and let Theo Riddick and another running back try and do some things.
So what if it's a player that you aren't going to actually be able to replace this season? Because I see if Eric Ebron, I think Darren Fells and whoever else you want to put in there will be at least serviceable. You take Amir Abdullah out, what are you putting in?
You know what?
Riddick, Dwayne Washington, yeah. What's the other guy? Zach Zenner.
who was inactive on
Or
Sunday.
are we going to bring in Tion Green?
Ugh.
At this point, I'd rather see what Tion Green can do.
Potentially. Amir Abdullah, I mean, what's he done? I don't understand why all the support. I mean, he's got a
It's
built-in
so
excuse.
much talent.
So much talent. It's not, unfortunately, sometimes when you're in a position where the system's not helping you, you just maybe got to see about another opportunity. You might just have to go somewhere else. It's not going to be here. Oh, man. That game on Saturday versus Northwestern, our Spartans had an opportunity. They played decent. I mean, there were situations where
To
Northwestern...
quote our president, sad.
It was very tough because of the fact that you earned an opportunity. I mean, you get up to the fourth quarter, and Brian Lewerke leads the team to a comeback drive, and that catch to Felton Davis was outstanding. One of the top 5 catches in the entire 2017 season. Everyone's like, yes, you get it to overtime, okay? And for me, the game was lost, not in the first overtime, but in the second. When the Spartans had the ball after the first overtime, and then they take, the way overtime works is
Goes back and forth.
Exactly. Northwestern had the ball first, then the Spartans at the end of the first overtime, then the Spartans had it again to start the second overtime, and they scored on back-to-back drives. So for me, yes, you can pinpoint and you can look to the play where Lewerke drops the ball, scrambles, and heaves it up. And we'll talk about trying to play hero ball and the big mistake that he made. But for me, the defense had to take a stand at some point. The offense was doing some things. They had momentum. They had built enough momentum from the fourth quarter into overtime that the second drive for Northwestern, they cut through Michigan State's defense like butter.
Yeah, that was...
It was super tough. And once that happened in the second overtime, my thought process was, I don't see this one for Michigan State. I felt like, how do you not stop Northwestern after you scored that touchdown in the second overtime? I was demoralized. And then finally, in the third overtime, I believe that the Spartans had the task of trying to, score a touchdown and convert a 2-point conversion. Lewerke drops back, heaves it up, and it gets picked off. How mad should we be at Lewerke? Because dude was balling out. I mean, I think he set the single game record for throwing yards for a Michigan State quarterback.
Yeah.
And he played well, but unfortunately, there's room for improvement. Missed a lot of open receivers, made a lot of mistakes in that game.
Very true. And I know it's been said that if there were about 5 passes where he just overthrew guys, that would have probably been touchdowns. And you get one of those back, and you're not even going to overtime. I'm not going to be too upset with Brian Lewerke because this is still a very young team. They've already exceeded, I think, any expectations critics had of this Spartan team.
Being 6-2 at this point?
I think a lot of us knew. I know people wanted to get big on them, but at least I knew that there was something coming, that they've been playing at such a high level that something was they were gonna stumble along the way, because that's what Michigan State does. That they have one of those games where they should win, they should be favored, and then they just go out and they drop a dud. And yeah, this Lewerke, I think he played a great game. The one thing that I see when he in that overtime, when he tries to take the game over with that last pass, it's a fumble. He could have. I think he would have even had another shot at it if he would have, because it was second down. So even if he takes it or if he throws it away, you get another chance to play. You get another chance to get something going. But he took it on himself to try and win the game there, and that reminds me a lot of a guy like Kirk Cousins or a guy like Connor Cook. So that at least gives me hope that, even though this was not the best situation, even though it is a tough loss, that he's going to take this, and I think he's going to get better from this. It might not translate this season, but next season, I think Brian Lewerke's got a bright future for the Spartans.
So you take a little bit of some moral victories away from this loss. I feel like they had a chance, Jason. They were right there. I feel like had the defense
but they also
made a play,
needed to
they're
get
right
a
there.
touchdown in the last 25 seconds. If this is
Why does Michigan State struggle with Northwestern so much?
I think it's a very similar team. I think that it's two teams who they're usually defensive driven, that both teams are comfortable trying to grind it out. And that's what Michigan State does. And that's what Mark D'Antonio and their offense is. They try to grind teams out, and they hope that eventually they're able to, break one here, maybe get a pretty solid touchdown. and then to rely on your defense to get stops. And really, for up until the overtime periods, that really was the plan for both teams, that they were just trying to hold off each other. I think we're lucky that we even got into the overtime period, because we could have legitimately just lost it at that point.
Okay,
if Felton Davis didn't make that crazy touchdown.
Spartans open up as an 8-point underdog to Penn State. They're coming in reeling after really a collapse versus Ohio State. That was really surprising. I thought that once they got to the 11 or 12-point lead, that was a wrap. But Ohio State marched down the field, and they kind of now have paved the way for themselves, the Ohio State Buckeyes, to win the East and get to Indy at least. So, man, it's tough. But do you have any confidence that the Spartans at home could play Penn State tough and maybe walk away with the victory? I don't see it.
I think they'll play them tough, but it's going to be a difficult situation you're put in, because I think Penn State, they're still in the picture, that if they can run the table, maybe they can do something. Maybe they get into the Big Ten championship and then are able to compete for a national championship.
I feel like the way it's going to play out potentially is, like we said last week, I feel like that it's probably going to be losses to Penn State, Ohio State, so they'll be 6-4, and then they'll just run the table and defeat Maryland and Rutgers. 8-4, hopefully play a quality bowl game, maybe get to 9 wins this year, which would exceed everyone's expectations. Now you got Lewerke with more experience, having played Ohio State, Penn State. Dude, I think, is a sophomore, so he's got 2 more years potentially to grow and develop.
All those young wide receivers, Cody White, Hunter Rison, they're going to be solid wide receivers in years to come.
All right, before we get out of here, Brandon Peters made his appearance. Once he was brought in, everybody was riled up there at the big house. He performed, obviously, versus Rutgers, and people now are on the Brandon Peters hype train. Is the king on Brandon Peters hype train?
No. I mean, I hate Michigan. I can put aside my hatred, though, to tell it like it is. You guys played Rutgers. I'm not sure if there's really much more I have to say. You guys played Rutgers. Yeah, I think you made a good decision by trying to get a young quarterback some experience and putting him in a good situation where he can actually succeed. But the real test isn't going to come for another 3 weeks. You have Minnesota upcoming, which you're at home, and you should beat Minnesota, but maybe you'll get a little bit of a test there. And then you got to play Maryland on the road, which isn't going to be much. So, he gets a little bit of road experience, but then you have to travel to Wisconsin. You end the season with Ohio State. He better get as much love and put all the hype behind him, because he's going to need all that for the next 2 weeks, because going into Wisconsin and taking on Ohio State, this could break that quarterback.
Okay.
And Brandon Peters could be broken for them for forever.
Well, it does actually kind of, if Ohio State can finish the deal and defeat Michigan that final game of the season, it actually is kind of nice, too, for Michigan fans. Get all your hope up that, you found your quarterback, and then, boom, get smacked down by Ohio State. Because
I can't wait. I hope that one of the two teams, I hope Minnesota puts a hurting on them. I mean, it'd be nice to see if they play them close, but realistically, Michigan should take care of these next two teams. Wisconsin and Ohio State are different stories.
Quick hitters. Shout out to the Pistons going out to the West Coast, defeating the Clippers in Golden State. Amazing. And when this podcast is released, it's game day. Justin Verlander takes the mound Tuesday night versus the Dodgers. Do you see him closing out the deal, and are you rooting for it?
Well, you know that I'm already rooting for him. I said before that I wanted him to win, and you're just a complete hater, but I think he closes the deal. I think the Astro train is rolling, and Correa and Altuve, and those guys aren't even the guys who are getting it done. It's other guys.
This World Series has been outstanding. I mean, all the comebacks, whether the baseball is juiced or not, it has been outstanding to watch. Each team wants it, quality teams, and I know I'm going back and forth, but I like the fact that Justin Verlander has the ball. So if he wants the World Series title, go out there, go 8 innings strong out there in L.A. and take it down. I feel like he has a strong chance, but I'm only going to put it at a 55% chance. Yasiel Puig has come out already and said there will be a Game 7, but even if there is a Game 7, I think the Astros have a slight edge. because the Dodgers bullpen looks like they're wore the hell out. So Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, I don't think has utilized his bullpen properly. I think once he pulled Rich Hill from Game 2, I believe, that he's kind of taxed his bullpen, and the Astros got their ace. This is the guy you made the commitment to and made the trade with the Tigers. So we shall see if Justin Verlander takes the ball, Game 6, World Series, and does the job. Because, hey, what else could you want if you're Justin Verlander? When I look at it, for me, I would flip out, man. Waiting 24 hours before the biggest start of your life. This is it. Probably this is the last realistic chance that Verlander has of winning the title. So it'll be fascinating to see how he does, because he's done some things out there in California in closeout games. And I think the entire state of Michigan will be cheering him on. And good luck to Justin Verlander from the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Until next week, and maybe we'll be celebrating a World Series for JV. He's John, I'm Jason. Peace out.
Okay, nice, idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.